Welcome, welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geeks Me Radio. Tonight, we're going to have Jim and Donna Pressman of Pressman Toys on to talk about their 100th year of Pressman Toys. We're also going to later on celebrate Stan Lee's 100th anniversary, his birthday, with John Cimino. All that and more, stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to you. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, wherever you get your podcasts, we appreciate your finding us there as well. And of course, if you are streaming us right now, we got video because Joey V's in the house tonight. So we got video, we got YouTube and Facebook. What else were we? Are we on YouTube and Facebook, right? YouTube and Facebook? Yeah, YouTube and Facebook, which is plenty of stuff. So we're on there thanks to Joey V. So hello to all of you who are watching live tonight. I'm going to engage the chat so I can keep an eye on you. If any of you have any questions, you can feel free to chat us. I'm actually going to go live to the phones right now because we've got my first guest is currently on the line. We have, I believe, Jim and Donna Pressman, the current CEOs of Pressman Toys. Can you, do I have both of you on the line?
You know what? It's past Donna's bedtime, so she's not here. So I'm taking it in for us.
Perfect. My wife's the same way. I said, you can listen to my show tonight. She goes, you know it's past my bedtime. So we've got Jim Pressman, the current CEO of Pressman Toys, though. Very glad to have him on talking about, congratulations, 100 years of toys. That's quite a legacy.
It's been a great time. You know, my father started it 100 years ago. My mother ran it for a long time, and I was able to finish it off. And it's been a good run.
And when you were, you think of a family business. When you're growing up, people kind of expect you to take over the family business. Was that a pressure situation for you, or is that something you were glad to do? I mean, you're running a toy company. That must have been, as a kid myself, in an adult body, I would think that would be awesome. It
was actually something that I never planned to do. I went to Boston University, became an English major for some reason. After college, my older brother suggested that going into the toy company would be good experience, no matter where else I ended up. And I took his advice, and it just went from there. But I never felt the pressure. My brother was peripherally in the business ahead of me, but he always really wanted to be in the movie business, so he became a successful producer. But
oh, wow.
He left me with the toy company, and it was a good story for both of us.
Now, you see all these toys. That's something when I think of toys and movies, and you just mentioned that, we see like Battleship got a movie, and they kind of do these toy movie crossovers sometimes. I saw someone post on, I think it was Instagram one time, board game as movies, but there are horror ones like Hungry Hippos, where these man-eating hippos are chasing people through the jungle, or Candyland, where it's like this tour. Was there ever any ideas like, hey, you know what? Let's do a toy movie crossover of our own, maybe Mastermind as a movie? Yeah,
we thought about it, and we tried to go somewhere with it, but none of our, those were really all actions. Well, Battleship was not. That was an action figure, but nothing ever really jived. But my brother was friendly with a fellow named Dick Smith, who was a Hollywood makeup artist who won an Academy Award for The Exorcist and some other things. And he actually created horror makeup sets for us in the late 70s that were really forerunners of some of the Halloween makeup things that happen today. So there were some synergies between the movies and the toy company.
So when you look at the all the games you put out, there's like a licensed Wheel of Fortune game. Obviously, my producer has some of them up on the screen right now for those of you watching. Gooey Louie is a good one for the kids. They love stuff like that. Do you personally have a favorite game that Pressman has produced over the years?
Well, my favorite game to play is Rummy Cube.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tile game, and it's been probably our most successful game over the long run. And it's still very popular today. But Gooey Louie has a special place in my heart, just because it broke all the boundaries at the time. Anytime you have to pull boogers out of a character's nose in order to enter the game and win the game, it pulled some heartstrings.
It's like Operation, except for an ENT. That's kind of like that. If you look at it light. And we should mention too, you've got the book out now. And for those of you watching on camera, I'm holding it up here. It's A Century of American Toys and Games: The Story of Pressman Toy. Was this something that, with the centennial of your company coming up, you were kind of like, hey, we got to mark this occasion? Was it something that someone else approached you about doing the book? How did the idea for the book itself come about?
I give my wife a lot of credit for that, most of the credit, because when it was coming time, she felt that the family, and my mother was one of 6 sisters and a brother, and there was a whole legacy that's in the book that tells the story not just of the company but the family and how it managed all these 100 years to stay afloat. So my wife really said, we need to do something to put it all in writing so that it's not lost. And if we don't do it now, no one's going to do it. And I was fortunate to be in a position to act on it. And my wife and I did a lot of research and found out things about the beginning of the business that we never knew existed by going into some archives in Rochester at a museum up there that has archives of the toy history.
Oh, neat.
So it was amazing what we found.
And that's too, it's one of those things, people don't always keep things. They're like, we don't need this anymore. We're all guilty of that, throwing things out and everything like that. So how much of the stuff was stuff that you personally had through like family history, family diaries, and how much was it that you researched through the place you mentioned?
Yeah, so it was a combination. The early things from the 20s, 30s, and 40s, where my father was starting the business, we found a lot of it, practically all of it through the archives. There was some catalogs that we had from the 30s and 40s, and that was really great because when we started looking at the old catalogs, my wife especially, looking at it from an objective viewpoint, said, wow, this is really great, amazing stuff. And some of the things they were doing in those days, like metal hammer toys for kids, were things that, would never exist today. And she said, that's some great stuff there.
Right.
So we started with the catalogs, did the research with Rochester, with the archives. And then a lot of the family pictures we had. We had a lot of photographs of my mother's early times and my father's when they first met and fell in love and all that. We have a lot of documentation and family photos.
And obviously, the story goes all the way back to your great-grandfather, Abraham Pressman, and coming over from Eastern Europe, fleeing, over there, all the stuff that was going. He arrived at Ellis Island, and this is really an American success story. It's someone who comes over here, starts a company, makes an impact, and obviously, it's an impressive impact. You've been around for 100 years now, so
yeah.
it's kind of really got to be gratifying from your standpoint to look back at the legacy that your great-grandfather started, and now here you are with this book and the company, everything like that. That's got to be a good feeling for you.
It is. It really is. And being able to, put it in writing and have everybody, read the stories, and the feedback we've gotten on the book has been really wonderful. That it touches a lot of places. Not just in the business world, but in the family story. So it's been very gratifying, the whole journey.
And I know a lot of people were talking about during COVID, when everything was locked down, nobody could go out. People were playing more board games. People were playing more card games and things like that. Did Pressman Toys see any kind of an uptick in sales during the COVID era?
Yeah, when it first happened, that first year when everybody was in, it was probably the best, maybe the best year ever for the board games and puzzles. Then last year and this year came, and the opposite happened with freight rates going up and supply chains and all that. So, it's balanced out a little bit. But at first, it was a huge boom, for the toy and puzzle business.
And for those of you just now tuning in, we're speaking with Jim Pressman, the current CEO of Pressman Toy, maker of such toys as Rummy Cube and obviously the Wheel of Fortune edition. Mastermind's another one that always springs to mind with that being such a strategic game. When you're looking at games, obviously you've got games that are kind of like, you think of Pressman Toys when you think of these games, and people always want the upgraded, the updated. Are there any of these classic games that you sit down and you take a look at and you're like, maybe we need an updated version of this or anything? Or is a classic always a classic?
No, you try to maximize it. Rummy Cube is a good example of that. We did 6-player games, there's deluxe editions, there's junior editions. When you have something that's successful, you look for ways of maximizing that, and some ideas obviously work better than others, but you're always looking to improve. With Wheel of Fortune was the same thing. We did a deluxe version, we did a kids version, travel version, and in that case, everything worked really well.
And it's obviously, kids play games, they're more going to be drawn to like the Gooey Louie, and adults play games might be more like the Mastermind, things like that, or just a standard set of checkers or something like that. Do you find that marketing to kids versus adults has more of an impact on the company's bottom line, or is it kind of, it's just the overall crowd and whoever's buying at the time is buying at the time? Yeah.
I wouldn't say that one's more profitable than the other area. There's different strategies, obviously, you use to reach children. Now it's more the, internet area and so forth, whereas it used to be all TV. With adults, word of mouth is really the best success, and that's how most of the successful games that have been around forever really got their start, is really the slow build-up method. Somebody plays it, they pass it on to somebody else. But in terms of the profitability, it all depends on which game more than what audience you're going for.
And I often wonder about a toy business like yours, where you've got these successful toys, and I think of like a publishing house where people are coming and, hey, I've written the next great novel, and they're pitching it to
right.
you. How does that work with people who want new toys? Is there like a Shark Tank situation set up where people, you kind of hear their pitches or whatnot? Do you have a meeting or time set aside for people to do that, or is it just kind of like you are always on the lookout for things? And how does that come up with when you get new toys and new games?
Well, you're always on the lookout, but there's a time frame, because it takes so much time, like a year or so, to actually develop something and put it into market. Mm-hmm. So you're looking a year ahead, and there are certain inventing groups, individuals and companies that are that's where 90%, let's say, of the successful toy and game products come from, and they're spread out all over the country, and in some cases all over the world. So you're meeting with those people on a rotational basis, every 3 months, every 6 months, something like this. And every once in a while, some idea comes from some individual who just has an idea that, that's where Triomino's came from. Mastermind came from an inventor from Israel who had a couple of ideas, but that was one of them. So, they do come from all places, but most of them come from these professional inventors.
And you mentioned, you've got a year to do it. Do you have normally, is it there's always a rotating bevy of games that are in process, in development, or is it kind of like you want to make sure the most of the games are out before the Christmas season? When is a good time during the year to drop a new game on the market?
Well, usually I would say around August, September is when the new products start to roll in for the fall season. Mm-hmm. That way the shelves get stocked. You get some early reads so you can try to forecast how it's going to sell. And then you can either, beef up production, or not. So that's really when you really want to get product into the market.
And what, again, I think of running a toy company. I think of it just as like I said before, a kid in an adult's body. It would be a dream job because you're getting to basically play all day. You're getting to, obviously, there's a lot of hard work to do, especially if you've got 100 years legacy behind you. For someone who might be thinking, that sounds amazing, what are some things that the normal layman like myself isn't thinking of? What are some stuff that's really a hard part of the job?
Well, first getting into Target, Walmart, and Amazon are the three largest, distributors, retailers in the marketplace, and getting into their front door is the first challenge. Mm-hmm. But if you're not going for the mass, if you're trying to do it, on a small basis and trying to build from there, then I'd say, the investment in the product is the first obstacle, because in order to produce a decent quantity, you have to maybe make 10,000 games, and that's going to cost you. If you're only going to make 1,000 games, it's going to cost a lot more than making 10,000 or 25,000. So the financial risk is one of the main obstacles that you'll face early on.
Yeah, and especially in this economy, obviously, like you said earlier, 2020 was great. 2022, not so much when the supply chain and everything came to a halt. Because is it usually steady, and it's just been the past couple of years with all the topsy-turvy stuff has thrown it in flux, or are there always big ups and downs?
Well, there are a lot of ups and downs. The nice thing about the game business is that some of the games we've talked about, like Rummikub and Mastermind and Checkers and Chinese Checkers, which is where my father started the company on Chinese Checkers. A lot of those things are handed down from generation to generation. So part of the success for Pressman was that we always had some very staple products. So you can take some flyers, and some of them work and some of them don't, but you always have the base product line, and that's what keeps it going. So you're not creating a new company every year. You're just building on what you've had, before.
And then I think it's fascinating too. Obviously, we mentioned originally this was started as a toy and novelty store in Harlem. Do you know what's in that space now, where the original toy and novelty store was? Is it still office building? Has it been torn down and made high-rise condos? Do you know what's there at the moment?
We visited his office, and that's no longer there. And the store, actually, we didn't get to, but I'm pretty sure it's not there anymore.
That's always sad when it's like, it'd be nice to have some of these things preserved. I feel like we're tearing down a lot of our history in cities all over the country, and when we do all this new development, that's the way of life. But then I believe your mother was one of the first female CEOs in the industry, took over and was running the company as well. Right.
She married my father in 1941, so he had the company going for a while at that point. And then in 1947, Jack, my father, broke with his partner, and my mother came into the business. And virtually they were running it together for about 10 years. And my father made a desk, custom-made desk, he and her desk, so that they were basically equal in appearance, although my father was still president and she was then vice president. And then when my father passed away in 1959, my mother was left with the company, and she took it on. And the first year was the catalog we see is pretty much a copy of the year before, so she needed a year to get her feet on the ground. Mm-hmm. But she was very flamboyant. She always wore a hat. She was very extravagant in her advertising. And the first year that she came to Toy Fair, after a year had passed, she had a memory game that she had, and in order to bring attention to it at Toy Fair in New York, she brought a live elephant to the front of the toy building. And as we know, an elephant never forgets.
That's correct.
And that was her gimmick there. So she ran the business very successfully for almost 20 years. And as you said, there was only one or two other women in the business, and one was Mattel with the Barbie doll, and one was Alexander doll. But all the pictures we have of her in board meetings and so forth were one woman among 20 men. But she used her guile and she used her flair and her creativity and came out with some great products. And she was one of the first ones to use TV advertising in the day to promote, to kids. And she did a lot of licensing with TV shows at the time. I got to go to a Howdy Doody show myself when I was a child and be in the peanut gallery. Anyway, so she was very successful.
And again, if you've just now tuned in, we're talking with the CEO of Pressman Toys right now, all about the brand new book. And again, here it is if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, A Century of American Toys and Games, the story of Pressman Toys. We're talking with Jim Pressman right now. With the toy business, and we're now entering, your 101st year. Are there any things in mind? It's like, okay, we got 100 years down. Are you laying the groundwork? Like, where are we going to go for the next 100? What do you do after you celebrate a centennial in the business?
Well, I think right now there's some plans are to diverge a little bit and go into a few other areas adjacent to the game area. So there's things in the works, but the industry is very private sometimes about, exactly what those plans are. So it's hard to divulge, explicitly what's happening.
Yeah, no, and I'm out of curiosity. Yeah. Is there, you're the, running the company now, but it's been in the family. Do you have sons, daughters, nieces, nephews who you're already training coming up to be the, when you decide to retire? And are you ready? Do you have your eye on someone else in the family to take over the reins?
No. Actually, we're very close to the company in Holland. Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
No worries.
The TV show, the radio show. Sorry.
That's right.
We and the company Goliath, who licenses from us, will be actually taking over Pressman and keeping the name going. But they're the ones who will be carrying on the name.
And it's great to know that, like I said, you've had this legacy and that the name will carry on. I mean, this is something that, obviously 100 years, there are so many generations of people who grew up playing your toys and the games and everything that you guys have produced. It's an amazing thing to think about. When you look back as your tenure on CEO, what are you most proud of that you yourself have done with the company or brought to the company or has happened to the company under your guidance?
Well, I think we became one of the leaders in the world in games. And I think, the friendships and the way that Pressman is looked on by the industry is very gratifying to see that and understand that. And that my father was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2000, and I was fortunate to be elected into the Hall of Fame last year on the 100th anniversary of Pressman. The fact that Pressman is looked at and looked upon in this wonderful light, it makes everything worthwhile.
Absolutely. And again, we'll put a link to the where you can get the book if you are interested in checking out more. Here it is right here. Once again, A Century of American Toys and Games, a story of Pressman Toy from Abbeville Press. We'll have a link to that. If you're listening to this after the fact, scroll down to the bottom in the show notes. Obviously, if you can, go to your local bookstore and ask them to order it for you if they don't carry it. We always like to support local bookstores if at all possible, but we will put a link up also where you can get that. What do you have holiday plans? What are holiday plans look like for a toy and gaming family? What do you guys all gather around and play, Wheel of Fortune, or you have checkers tournament among the family when it happens, or is that work and you guys do other things for play?
Well, in the past, we've done that when my daughter was younger. Now, she's a little older and her boyfriend, but we'll all get together and open some gifts up and make some lasagna or something like this.
Ooh.
So it'll be a nice family time. And if we're lucky, we'll get a Rummikub game in or two, which we did over the COVID period quite a bit. So it'll be nice.
Fantastic. Jim Pressman, Pressman Toys, it's been a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. Congratulations again on your induction and also on 100 years of Pressman Toy. That's quite a legacy. Thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Take care.
You.
Happy holidays.
Thanks. Take care. You too. Bye-bye.
There he goes, Jim Pressman. We'll have a link, as I said, we'll have a link to that book in the show notes. Before we go to break, want to make sure we tell you about one of the reasons we are on the air, of course, is our premier sponsor, and that, of course, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. The website, as you well know by this time, discoverstcharles.com. Our last big weekend of Christmas traditions just happened. They are in their 47th year, which makes it the largest and longest running Christmas festival in the country. A lot of people were out there this weekend, despite the cold temperatures. It almost makes it more picturesque when you've got that little chill in the air and you're out there celebrating Christmas, doing your Christmas shopping. You can get out there and interact with the likes of Jack Frost and Susie Snowflake. You can hear the Stone Row Chorus or the Nightingales singing Christmas songs in period-appropriate garb and style. Get some hot chestnuts from the Chestnut Roasters. And, of course, make sure you visit Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig, Ebenezer Scrooge, Bob Cratchit, Jacob Marley, and all the others on Wednesday nights for the Christmas Carol Stroll. This coming Wednesday will be the last night that you're able to do that. So make sure if you get out on Wednesday night, this will be a great night to do it. Friday night of this week will be the last Krampusnacht. You can go down to the KD Depot and visit Krampus, get your picture taken with him, play some games with the Mary Lloyd, the Callie Kansroy, and of course, our big Santa send-off on Christmas Eve. You can see St. Nicholas, Christkind. We've got Judah Maccabee, and we've got all sorts of international Santas from around the world. Santa Lucia, Père Noël, not Père Noël. We got Father Christmas is the English Père Noël. A lot of characters you can interact with. It's a great time to finish off that last little bit here before we get into Christmas itself. So spend Christmas in St. Charles like so many people have. You can plan your trip now on the website, Discover St. Charles. That's discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. We're going to take a quick break. We are going to come right back in just one moment. We'll be talking with John Cimino about I can't even talk tonight, about Stan Lee's upcoming, what would have been his 100th birthday. And he just wrote a great article in Alter Ego, issue number 179. We'll visit with him, what him and Roy Thomas have planned for the holiday season. We'll get into all that and more. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio. Please stand by.
Of course, the world's fastest train is taking off. Super Turbo Train with Daredevil Jump travels in scale beyond the speed of sound. So fast, it races up a wall and even upside down. So fast, it makes the incredible Daredevil Jump and keeps on going. There's nothing else like it. Take control of the fastest and only airborne train. The new Super Turbo Train with Daredevil Jump from Tyco.
Strawberry shortcakes tickle 'cause she's found. 'Cause look-alike twins look alike upside down. Strawberry shortcake with custard and lamb and Ada with sugar woofer, each sold separately.
Sugar woofer? How do you tell the twins apart? I sniff them. They both smell lemony. That's why they're called Lem and Ada. But which is which? Dog defino.
New lamb and Ada with sugar woofer. Strawberry shortcake with custard sold separately.
They're here. Zero gravity cliffhangers, 'cause you race them upside down. Plummeting through the giant loop as you reach for new speeds and use your skill to master the death-defying spiral and blast up the wall to zero gravity. Then turn out the lights and your Ignite Glow. Now make your final move to take the lead and win. Zero gravity cliffhangers. Now with Night Glow. New from Tyco. Go.
It's time to start the Strawberry Lamb Bake-Off in honor of my very new Sweet Sense Kitchen. Okay, you can start cooking.
My next guest is, he works very closely with Roy Thomas, and he's just had an article in Alter Ego 179 celebrating the 100th birthday of Stan Lee that would have happened in just a few weeks here. It's amazing to talk to this guy. He knows a lot about the comic business well. John Cimino, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Great to have you on. I appreciate it. We just talked about your article in Alter Ego. You work with Roy. You know a lot of the inside stuff, and you've obviously Stan Lee. You've talked to him several times. This is one of those things. I will say, when Stan Lee passed a couple of years ago, I had to take a minute. This was one of those deaths that kind of hit me hard, and I'm sure you, as close as you were to him and Roy, this must have been a very hard one to take for you as well.
Yeah. Oh, man. It really was. And I had the unfortunate pleasure to actually be with Stan, with Roy, just about, like 30 to 40 hours before he passed. And, that was pretty, it was pretty rough.
And I know that Stan, I think, tell me if I'm misquoting this, but I think Stan looked at you and said, make sure you take care of my boy, Roy.
Because what a lot of people that became public knowledge knows that, a lot of bad people were in Stan's life. And that time when we saw him, for about a month or so, he didn't want to see anybody. He just was kind of fed up with everything. He was kind of ready to go. He made his peace with himself. And when he found out that Roy wanted to come see him, he wanted to see him. So anyways, we fly over there. And we meet. My God! I mean, it was incredible though when he saw Roy and stuff. The smile on his face, the smile on Roy's face. It was incredible to see that. And when finally after they were talking and stuff, I went there and I like a little kid at a candy shop. I was sitting crisscross applesauce at his knees. It was Stanley and Roy Thomas talking about stuff and. I'm thinking to myself, oh, my God, how did I get here? I was at the top of Mount Olympus.
Right.
But, he actually he holds my hand, and he said, he goes, take care of my boy Roy, because he didn't want stuff like what happened to him to happen to Roy. And I told him, I said, Stan, that'll never happen. I go, I love Roy. He's my friend. He's my brother. And I go, and I'll be with him, and I'll protect him always. And he said, thank you. God bless you, John. God bless you. And so after that, he passes soon after that. Then I became on this thing about whether protecting Roy or, igniting his already big flame to the world. That's what I do now because people sometimes ask me, why do you work so hard with Roy and all that? And I go, because Stan told me to. So it was a pretty magical moment.
And I know we met Roy, I think it was last year at Planet Comic Con, and you were kind enough to arrange an interview. So we've had Roy on the show and talked to him a little about all the stuff he's done. And he's been hitting the cons a lot lately. You've obviously, he's doing a lot of these. He seems so energetic and he loves doing them. I know we just got an announcement that you guys will be back at Planet Comic Con for the 2023 con as well.
Yeah, we signed that deal. That's going to be great. Roy, I mean, all I ever did was just amplify the greatness of what Roy has. I mean, he just has such a huge breadth of work, whether it's creating or co-creating so many of the most iconic characters from Wolverine to Carol Danvers to Vision, Power Man, Iron Fist. It goes on. And his just what he has done for the industry. I mean, I don't think people really ever understood, him saving Marvel a few times and always giving his best for the industry that only his peers know. And the stories I've known and stuff, you realize his importance and the reason why Stan loved Roy and trusted him so much, because Stan wasn't going to give up writing Spider-Man, the Avengers, and all those other comics, or taking the reins to run the whole thing, Roy being the first editor-in-chief, to just anybody. He did that to Roy because he understood that Roy had this vision that he's seen. And just really quickly, people need to understand, Roy is one of us. This is what makes the greatness of Roy Thomas.
Yeah.
He pioneered comic fandom, fanboyism. Him, Jerry Bales, Billy Joe White, starting Alter Ego, doing all that stuff. But he's one of us, and he went all the way to the top of the mountain, and it's just a remarkable story.
And I know you mentioned saving Marvel a couple times. When we did have Roy Thomas on, I asked him about, hey, it was you who kind of were like, hey, we should probably do Star Wars, which at the time literally did save Marvel Comics. And Roy just shrugged it off. He's like, it was no big deal. I thought it was interesting. So he just really downplayed what a big move that was.
Yeah, the thing about Roy, he's so incredibly humble. As you know, he's such a wonderful person. But sometimes I had to grip my teeth because it's like, you need to take a bow, son. You did so much. And it's like, get to that stage and take a bow. He's that type of person that will want you to get the credit, to do everybody. No, you. But sometimes he forgets about himself. And as you know, he's the comic book historian of the world today. I mean, like, from Alter Ego, and like nobody can say the stories that Roy has. Not just that he wasn't there, but he's so educated on everything that it's funny. Sometimes he can't find his car keys, but if you ask him something about Bill Everett or something from the past, he'll get it in a second. Boom. Oh yeah, that was 1936. Oh yeah, that was boom, 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 boom. So I mean, it's just wonderful, his love for the comics, because you have to remember, Roy was the first person to be a fan to come into the business. Mm-hmm. Like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, all those guys, John Romita, they were all doing a job, but they weren't necessarily comic fans. Roy was that first that did that, and he brought that to the writing. He revolutionized writing that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, that they did it all in the 60s, and then Roy brought in that enthusiasm and just changed it. And he's the one that ushered in the Len Weins, the Chris Claremonts, they all kind of, Steve Englehart, those guys all followed suit with Roy, and Roy was the first to do that. Amazing career, amazing.
And I know Roy's, the age difference between Roy and Stan's about 20 years. Obviously, on December the 28th, we're celebrating Stan's 100th birthday. Roy just had a birthday on November the 22nd. So about 20 years of difference there, roughly. And they got on so well for having such an age difference. Why do you think Stan took such a liking to Roy? Was it because he appreciated his vivaciousness? Was it because he kind of got what Stan wanted to do? What do you think that was? Has Roy ever talked about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of live this amazing life that I go all over the world with Roy, but basically we just talk. Roy is exactly what he is, being a fan. Like he lives and breathes this stuff, and we talk about it all the time. But the thing with Roy and Stan, first, Stan knew he was competent and he could trust him, and whatever Stan had in his head of what he wanted, Roy had that in abundance. But here's the funny thing, though, from what I know from being on the outside and watching them talk to each other, hearing them on the phone and all that stuff, the one thing, they have a similar energy. Roy Thomas and Stan, they have this timeless, as people know when they saw Stan, he had this energy about him, about just you just wanted to be around that, and the little jokes and the quips. That's exactly how Roy is, and that noticing that they had that similar energy. Whatever I call it, I always say that's Roy's power cosmic. It's like they had some similar power cosmic that you could see why they loved each other. Because I met Stan a few times, and even without Roy and all that stuff, so I got to really see who Stan was. But when you see them together and they have that same stuff, they had that. There was something in the world. There was something in the ether that they had. And here I can tell you this, that there's no doubt about it how connected they were. Stan Lee had this ability, no matter what you think about him, he made Jack Kirby better, he made Steve Ditko better, he made John Romita better, he made all those artists, Wally Wood, whether you love or hate him, and we can get into this debate till ad nauseum, but they never had that type of success before or after when they were with Stan. That's just the absolute truth. Roy had that same knack and that same energy that when all these people came to Roy, there was something that they could rub off on Roy that they also became better. And that's why it's just incredible how they had those type of similarities. And then that's why they were so, you can say, beloved or infamous or famous.
Right.
They had that. And so whatever Stan Lee had, Roy had that too. And once again, he hired Roy literally almost on site. And he wanted Roy, and he knew what Roy was, and he was a competent guy. Because people don't understand, there were other people that came before Roy that wanted, like, looking for a job, and Stan had to pass and all that stuff. But when Roy came into that office and he did his little tryout and stuff, and Stan saw it, and then he met him, there was a bond and something magical there. And we, us, you, the whole world has a lot to be grateful for, because Roy Thomas is on that Mount Rushmore. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, and Roy Thomas, and that should be undisputed. And when people don't say that, I know they don't know what they're talking about, because unfortunately some people don't know. And then just that breadth of history and just what Roy has done for the entire industry is just unparalleled.
And the Roy Thomas appreciation page on Facebook is great, because you'll post stuff that Roy has a comment, like he just saw Wakanda Forever and gave his statement on that. But what's great is, obviously, posthumously, a couple books have come out about Stan Lee, and some of them have not been kind. And what I love is Roy immediately comes to Stan's defense and says, you know what? This guy wrote this book, wasn't even there, didn't know Stan Lee. He's telling stories he's not around for. And it's great that, here we are, we're celebrating Stan Lee's 100th birthday, and Roy is out there. He was actually there when this stuff was happening. He's able to say, no, you're wrong. Here's what really happened, and kind of stick up for Stan. I think that's great.
Oh, well, I'll tell you something funny. I know what books you're talking about, because they came to us first. And a lot of these, they came to that. And I got to say, I helped out said author meet other people and stuff. He when he was going down avenues and all that stuff. And what's interesting about that is all I wanted from him was just an acknowledgement from me and Roy. We never were actually even thanked in the book. So I thought that was ironic. But what people don't know is that we got contacted by a lot of other people saying, even before the book even came out, saying that they don't know how this is exactly going to be. They thinking this guy's looking for some sort of tabloid stuff, and he's not, blah, blah, blah. We even talked to some people that have said they've been misquoted in that. But here's a funny thing. On the boards, people were saying to me, Roy shouldn't have a say in this, yada, yada, because, you got a lot of people that don't like Stan, and they want they like this because it makes Stan get gets knocked down a few pegs.
Sure.
But they would say something like, they should just talk to Larry Lieber because he was there with Stan and all that stuff. Funny thing was, Larry Lieber even came out and said that he was misquoted on a few things and all that stuff, and that's public knowledge. And that that things what he said was turned in a different way. So that just shows you a lot of where that's going. But you got to think, people need to understand. Stan and Roy had this type of bond. It's funny. Roy says we were never really friends, but there was this mutual respect, and there's a love Roy has. It's weird. There's a love they had for each other, but especially from Roy. And Roy, that's his guy. And Roy will always respect those. Roy is, and it's like your brother or something. If somebody's attacking them, he's going to take arms with that. Yeah. And so it was just it was a remarkable thing, because there was just Roy came out there like Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos. He just freaking was like, you're not going to do this to my guy, my friend, my mentor. And he protected, and I loved that about him, because that's the one thing. Roy will protect others, but when it comes to Stan especially, because he is the last line of defense, and he will be. And it's so proud to be in those trenches with him, and I love it because, not one, because I'm a fan, and it's just wonderful to be on this side, but also to watch, to watch these guys And all of them, whether you like Stan or not, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Roy, all those creators, they have to be held in the highest esteem because they all gave us some happiness, some intrinsic happiness in our life that changed the world.
Unquestionably.
People will say, oh, yeah, it's just a comic book. Oh, no. The history of movies, what has become the biggest franchise of all time, just these little guys in this small office creating these wonderful dreams for people like me and you to talk about forever. That's how incredible it was. And I'll tell you something. The world today is so polarized, right? It's like you're on this side or this side. I hate you. I love you, blah, 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 blah. The one thing everybody can agree on, whether you want it to be blue or green, is superheroes, is these characters, these enduring characters. You can go to Russia. You can go to India. You can go to China. You can go to Australia. You can go to America, Canada, and everywhere in between. These characters are beloved by everybody. And it was Roy Thomas, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, John Buscema, and all the rest in these little offices that managed to do that. And once again, the heart and soul of it all was Stan Lee, because there's no way, no matter what you think of him, there's no way this train and this spark could have come into fruition without that man. And so whether you love or hate Stan Lee, you got to respect him because it wasn't going to happen by anyone else.
Exactly right. Again, if you're just now tuning in, we're talking with John Cimino all about the 100th anniversary of what would have been Stan Lee's 100th birthday, I should say. Are you okay to stick with us through a real quick break, John? We'll come back and ask you a few more things.
Absolutely, sir.
Perfect. We are going to talk more with John about that. When we come back, we're going to take a very quick commercial break. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Comes with everything you see here. New from...
You are controlling the fastest train in the world, the most revolutionary machine on tracks, the incredible Super Turbo Train. So fast it travels in scale beyond the speed of sound. So powerful it can do what no other train can do. Race up a wall, defying gravity. Now the ultimate. You streak upside down through the giant loop. You turn out the lights and you're in night glow, streamlining the darkness. Take control of the fastest train in the world. Super Turbo Train, new from Tyco.
Here's the real thing in racing thrills. Here are Tonka's new Power Punchers, pocket-sized cars. You can rev them up and pow, pow, Power Punchers. You can race them and run them, jump them and bump them.
A Tonka toy will Tonka for fun, fun, fun.
A pocket full of fun. Power Punchers, each sold separately. New from Tonka.
Why don't you drive a Tonka?
Fun and adventure. That's what you get when you drive Tonka trucks like Mud Runner, Roving Wrecker, and Jeep CJ. Each sold separately. Trucks sold...
We are back. Geek to Me Radio here on the Big 550 KTRS every Sunday night. We want to make sure, since we're talking Stan Lee's 100th anniversary, his what would have been his birthday coming up here at the end of the month, we tell you about our official comic book sponsor, Bugs Comics and Games, right there on Bryan Road in O'Fallon, Missouri. It's easily accessible from either Highway 70 or from the Page Extension. Also, if you're outside the greater St. Louis area, maybe you're watching this right now and maybe your local comic book store closed, Larry and Tim would love to be your new local comic book store online. Go to bugscomicsandgames.com. He's got a bunch of variant covers up there. He's got back issues, new issues. The great thing about everything, especially in this economy, is that you need to save money where you can. Join the Avengers Club at Bugs Comics, and you can start saving money on your new issues, your back issues, your games, your toys, your supplies, whatever it is you get. And, of course, you can even create a pull list if you know you want a certain book each week. Larry's holding, I think I missed last Wednesday, so Larry's holding probably about 10 or 15 comic books for me. I need to get in the store and pick those up before Christmas comes here. And it's a great way for you to save some money by joining the Avengers Club as well. If you're on Facebook, give their Facebook page a like. It's facebook.com/Bugs Comics and Games. If you're in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, head on over there, pop in, tell them you heard about it here on Geek to Me Radio. If you're not in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, the website is your avenue for purchasing from Bugs. BugsComicsAndGames.com. Very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. Talking just a little bit longer here. The hour flies by. We're talking with John Cimino about the 100th, what would be the 100th birthday of Stan Lee coming up. And you wrote an article in Alter Ego, number 179, about this. How long ago were you approached about writing it? How did you kind of collect your thoughts, and how did the overall creation of the article go for you? What's your process on this?
Oh, well, first off, I want to say it's my first cover credit of all time.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
If you look on that, and I told Roy, you make me feel like you did on Not Brand Ick #1, because that was Roy's very first cover credit, too, that Stan put up there. And Roy said he was so excited when he saw that, and I felt the same, to be on Alter Ego, which is the most respected comic magazine on planet Earth, and the very first comic fanzine ever created. But in issue number 70, Roy had me do Jack Kirby's the top 10 greatest slugfest of Jack Kirby from 1961 to 1970.
Oh, wow.
So if you got to think about a big article to do, it's like, whoa. And so I did that. He got such great feedback from that. He tells me that he's going to be doing a Stan Lee one, and he goes, I want you to give me Stan Lee's top 10 greatest stories ever. You talk about two big friggin' articles.
No kidding.
And I thought, God, Jerry Bales, where are you now? Come inside me. So, come inside my body and let's go. And I got to write the 10 greatest Stan Lee stories of all time that define the universe. And me and Roy were actually in an airport when we were talking about this, and we're bouncing off stories and all that stuff, going back and forth. And he's saying, let's put this one in, da-da-da-da-da. He goes, do whatever you want, John. You have all that freedom. And I love how he gives me that trust and that freedom. So once again, it was an honor to do this for Stan, because Stan holding my hand on that day and just telling me to take care of Roy and giving them that type of happiness that they gave to me because of where Stan was in life and Roy was in life. It just like I said, I'm like a man possessed in this. And that's why I'm so appreciative of where I am, but I also love it because I love what I'm doing. I love the articles I'm writing. I mean, who wouldn't want to write that? For Alter Ego? Are you kidding me? And in honor of Stan. And what's pretty interesting to know is that there's going to be, in a few months, I think it comes out in March, that there's going to be a collector item classic of the 3 best-selling Alter Ego articles.
Oh,
which
cool.
Is, magazines, which includes that Jack Kirby one. It includes the Steve Ditko special, and it includes the previous Stan Lee special, which I got to write the editorial introduction of that entire issue about Meet Stan and Roy and that whole meeting. So when that book's coming out, when that collected volume is coming out, I have the 2 articles in 2 of those magazines that were of those particular issues that were the best-selling issues of Alter Ego. And then that's why, once again, this would never happen without Roy, but I love how Roy has faith in me in those assignments. And I call him Stan sometimes, because I'm like, Stan had the faith in you to do these big roles and fill these big shoes. And actually, Roy's giving me these things on a lower scale to do that. And I love writing that because amongst anything, I'm a fan, and I love doing this, and I love doing it for Stan. And I think I did a pretty good job, so we'll see what happens. I recommend everybody to pick up issue 170 because it's a fun issue, and I got a great picture of me and Stan in there. That is the story behind that Roy wants me to eventually talk about in a future episode, in a future magazine.
And talking of future things, too, we've just got about 3 or 4 minutes left, but I wanted to make sure we mention you've got a podcast out, Steve and Cimino Say Boom, where you guys get into the nitty-gritty of some great comic book stuff, some pop culture stuff. And where, if people want to keep up with that, where can they find that podcast? Is it just anywhere they get their podcasts from, or do you guys have a specific platform you use?
Yeah, we do. It's the Pop XP Network on YouTube. It's run by my friend Niall Scala and Billy Tucci. People know they'll know that.
Oh, yeah.
I do. My co-host is Steve Houston of Torpedo Comics. He's also on Pawn Stars. He's the guy that the comic book go-to guy. He's also an Overstreet advisor, and he's just like me, a big goof that loves this stuff that we appreciate the comic. So, and we get all the guest stars from Roy. We call Roy our mascot because he's in so many episodes, and he loves to do it with us. But we also get Chris Claremont. We have Jim Salicrupt. We've had all the big names, Jerry Conway, that are on that. And so if you like comic book history, and we start breaking down every issue. And just really quickly, what we've been doing that's unprecedented in any podcast show, that we actually have Roy on, and he breaks down every issue, like a particular issue now, that he'll go page by page and what the artist was thinking, what he was telling the artist of some of the most famous comics in the world that he's done. So you're going to get some great information and great love. So it's the Steven Cimino Says Boom show on the Pop XP network on YouTube.
And I know I just saw the episode. You had the great Mark Grunwald's wife on there, Catherine, and that was a great episode. So if you're listening right now and you want to check out another cool podcast about pop culture and comics, check out the Steven Cimino Says Boom podcast. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Where can if people want to keep up with you online, where is the best places? Instagram, Twitter, social media handles that you're active with?
Yeah, I'm on obviously the Roy Thomas Appreciation Board on Facebook, which is Roy Thomas's only and fully 100% Roy Thomas's social media. So that's the Roy Thomas Appreciation Board on Facebook. And my Instagram is the Mego Stretch Hulk under John Cimino. And that's one word, TheMegoStretchHulk, the Mego Stretch Hulk on Instagram. Follow me, and you'll have up-to-dates on everything that Roy's doing, what I do in that world, because I'm the fanboy's fanboy. You'll see people, what the other side of Roy and this crazy life, wonderful life that I live in, love for comics. It's just comics, the creators, and everything you would expect it to be, because Roy is 100% honest to the world and to his craft, and you get to see that through the eyes of another fanboy, me, because once again, that's just what I am, and I just feel blessed to live this life and go on this roller coaster with literally one of the greatest, not just creators and all that stuff, but a great human being. Him and his wife, Dan Thomas, too. They're just, I'm so happy to be part of that circle, and we're family, and I love it, and I love everybody that we get in contact with, because it's wonderful.
Absolutely. John Cimino, I appreciate your time. I'll look forward to seeing you and Roy at Planet Comic-Con in 2023 once again. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you for having us, and thank you, everybody.
Take care. Be well. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too, guys. Thank you for everything.
Of course. Take care. There he goes, John Cimino. Just a great guy to talk to, especially on a topic like this. Before we get out of here, I want to make sure we tell you about our official movie sponsor. It's a great time to go see movies, of course, during the Christmas holiday. I've got family coming in town this week. We're probably going to end up going to see Violent Night or Wakanda Forever or something that's out right now. We might see The Menu or something. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it in a great environment with the best possible surroundings. Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. You can find the location of the Marcus Theaters or the movie tavern closest to you. You can also purchase your tickets through the website. Download the app. I forget we're on video today, so I'm going to really quick pull up my phone here. But if you want to download the app, it's great because if you're traveling around, you can hit the app right there on your phone. It pops up. You can get your tickets. You can get your concessions ahead of time, so they're ready and waiting for you when you get to the movie theater. And of course, if you subscribe to the Magical Movie Rewards program, you get points every time you buy a movie ticket, buy concessions. You can use those points to then go back and buy more movie tickets and popcorn. It's a great deal. Again, if we're talking about saving money, that's a great way to do it when you're at the movies. So check that out as well. The holidays are coming up. You might want to rent a private theater. You can do that through Marcus as well. So you and 20 of your closest friends or family can go check out a movie all by yourselves in a great surrounding. You can have popcorn and drinks and kind of customize the experience as well. It's a great time to go see movies at the holiday. Never a bad time to see movies, but the holiday is always a little something special about seeing a movie with family and friends. Marcus Theaters is the website we suggest you do that through. MarcusTheaters.com for the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. Thank you so much to my guest, Jim Pressman of Pressman Toy. Once again, the book, If you want to get that one, 100 years of Pressman toy right there. You can check that out. And, of course, thank you to John Cimino. Make sure you check out Alter Ego issue 179. You can get that article about he wrote about Stan Lee. Would have been 100 years old December 28th. It's hard to believe that time has passed so quickly. Thank you, of course, to Joey V sitting right across from me over there who came in. I'm gonna do something I haven't done before. I'm going to lift the camera up. There's Joey right there. He's the one making the video and making everything look so good. All the graphics you see online, that's all thanks to Joey. I wouldn't have been able to do this show without him or have the show this long without Joey, to be perfectly honest. Make sure you go check out our Instagram and our Twitter at Geek to Me Radio. Ever since Elon took over the Bird app, I'm not sure, I lost like 200 followers. So if you're listening right now or watching right now, go to Twitter at Geek to Me Radio. Give me a follow there. It would help me out greatly. I'm a very insecure man. My entire self-worth is wrapped up in social media. So it'd be great to get a follow from you there for this Christmas. I appreciate that very much. Other than that, that's going to do it. Next Sunday is Christmas. We won't be on. If you're looking for us on Sunday, the KTRS is just playing Mannheim Steamroller. So we will have a live show on Monday. It'll be pre-recorded because I'm still not coming in, but it's a brand new show. We've got Jeffrey Deaver, and we'll be talking with that New York Times best-selling author. You can catch that show 9 o'clock Monday. And then happy holidays. Merry Christmas, because I won't see you until later on. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you very much. Until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you love Scotty Young arts. It's not in the way you play Mario Karts. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Beverly Hills. Good night. Thank you all who watched tonight. I
KTRS.
appreciate it.